There is a very specific kind of underestimation that happens with small things. The smaller something is, the easier it is to assume it does not matter much. A seed sitting in the palm of your hand weighs almost nothing. It looks like nothing. It seems like the kind of thing you eat absent-mindedly from a bag while watching something, not really registering that you are consuming anything meaningful. And that assumption, that small means insignificant, turns out to be one of the more consequential nutritional mistakes a person can make. Because some of the most densely packed concentrations of useful biological compounds on the planet are sitting inside seeds, not in exotic superfoods that require a subscription box and a small fortune, not in supplements with complicated names and complicated claims, in seeds. Specifically, in 3 seeds that most people already know about, already have access to, and are almost certainly underestimating: pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds. These 3 have something in common beyond being small and frequently overlooked. Each one contains a specific set of compounds that address things the modern human body consistently struggles with: sleep, stress, skin health, heart function, digestion, sustained energy, in concentrations that are genuinely difficult to match through other commonly eaten foods. Not because they are magical, because the biology of what is inside them is, once you actually look at it, surprisingly well matched to the biology of what is going wrong in a lot of people. Subscribe to Freud Mind as we get into this. Start with pumpkin seeds. And start with the one mineral that most people reading nutrition labels have heard of, but almost nobody is getting enough of: magnesium. In surveys of nutritional intake across the United States and United Kingdom, magnesium deficiency or insufficiency consistently shows up as one of the most widespread nutritional gaps in the general population. Estimates vary, but research suggests that somewhere between 50 and 80% of adults in Western countries are not getting the recommended daily amount of magnesium from their diet. That is not a small number. That is the majority of people. The reason this matters more than most people realize is that magnesium is not just doing one thing in the body. It is doing hundreds of things. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions, processes that the body's cells use to perform their basic functions. It plays a role in DNA synthesis, in protein production, in energy metabolism, in muscle contraction and relaxation, in nerve signal transmission, and in blood sugar regulation. It is one of the most broadly active minerals in human physiology, and a consistent shortfall in it creates ripple effects across multiple systems simultaneously. Now here is where pumpkin seeds come in. A single ounce of pumpkin seeds, roughly a small handful, about 28 grams, contains approximately 37% of the recommended daily intake of magnesium for an adult. That is from one small handful of seeds. Getting to a meaningful magnesium intake through pumpkin seeds does not require a complicated meal plan or a supplement routine. It requires adding a small handful to your day on a regular basis. The sleep connection to magnesium is one of the most practically useful things to understand about this mineral, because sleep is something an enormous number of people are currently struggling with and looking for solutions to. Magnesium affects sleep through several mechanisms. First, it regulates the activity of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. GABA is what calms neural activity. It is what allows the brain to shift from the alert, activated state of waking life into the quieter state required for sleep onset. Magnesium binds to GABA receptors and enhances their activity, making it easier for the nervous system to down-regulate at the end of the day. Low magnesium means less efficient GABA activity, which can translate directly into difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep. Second, magnesium regulates melatonin, the hormone most people associate with sleep. Melatonin does not work in isolation. Its production and timing are influenced by a cascade of other biological processes, and magnesium is one of the factors that supports healthy melatonin regulation. Studies have found that magnesium supplementation in older adults who tend to have both lower magnesium levels and worse sleep quality, produces measurable improvements in sleep onset time, sleep duration, and sleep efficiency. The mechanism is not magic. The mineral is doing what it does in the nervous system, and better regulated neural activity produces better sleep. Third, magnesium has a direct effect on cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. High cortisol at night is one of the most common physiological reasons people lie awake, thinking, feeling wired when they should be winding down. Magnesium helps regulate cortisol release and suppresses the activation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the system responsible for the stress response, which is why adequate magnesium is associated with both lower anxiety and better sleep quality. These are not separate effects. They are the same effect showing up in different places. Pumpkin seeds also contain tryptophan, an amino acid that the body converts into serotonin and subsequently into melatonin. Combined with their magnesium content, this makes pumpkin seeds one of the more genuinely sleep-supportive foods available without a trip to a pharmacy. The muscle function piece is worth understanding in detail, particularly for anyone who exercises regularly or deals with muscle cramping, tension, or slow recovery. Muscle contraction requires calcium. Muscle relaxation requires magnesium. These two minerals work in opposition. Calcium signals the muscle fiber to contract, and magnesium signals it to relax. When magnesium is insufficient, the calcium signaling side of this equation runs relatively unchecked. Muscles contract more readily and relax less efficiently. The practical result of this imbalance is exactly what many people already experience: muscle cramps, tightness, difficulty with recovery after physical activity, and, in some cases, restless legs at night. Athletes and people who exercise regularly have higher magnesium requirements than sedentary individuals, partly because magnesium is lost through sweat, and partly because exercise increases the demand for the mineral across multiple metabolic processes. Research on athletic performance and magnesium status consistently finds that even marginal magnesium deficiency, not severe deficiency, just a modest shortfall, produces measurable decreases in exercise efficiency and increases in the oxygen cost of physical activity. The body works harder to do the same thing when it does not have enough magnesium. Beyond the calcium-magnesium balance, pumpkin seeds contain zinc, another mineral involved in muscle repair and immune function, and are a good source of plant-based protein, providing around 9 grams per ounce. For anyone trying to support muscle function through diet, the combination of magnesium, zinc, and protein in a single small-volume food is genuinely practical. Stress management through nutrition is a concept that can sound vague, but the magnesium-cortisol relationship makes it specific enough to be useful. The stress response system, when activated, consumes magnesium. The act of being stressed at a physiological level depletes the mineral, and lower magnesium makes the stress response more reactive and harder to regulate, which can deplete magnesium further. It is a cycle that researchers have documented and that has real implications for anyone navigating a high-stress lifestyle. Studies examining magnesium intake and anxiety symptoms have found consistent associations between lower magnesium status and higher self-reported anxiety, greater sensitivity to stress, and more pronounced physiological stress responses. A 2017 systematic review published in the journal Nutrients examined 18 studies on magnesium and anxiety, and found evidence supporting a beneficial effect of magnesium supplementation on anxiety symptoms, particularly in individuals who were deficient or insufficient. The practical implication of this is straightforward. Getting adequate magnesium, whether through diet or supplementation, does not eliminate stress, but it removes one of the physiological factors that makes the stress response harder to regulate. A nervous system that has what it needs is a nervous system that is better equipped to return to baseline after a stressful event. Pumpkin seeds are one of the most efficient dietary sources of magnesium available, which makes them a genuinely useful addition to a diet that is trying to support stress resilience. Now, sunflower seeds. and a nutrient that has one of the clearest and most direct connections to both skin health and cardiovascular function of anything in the food supply. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant, meaning it is stored in fat tissue and in fat-containing structures, including cell membranes. This is important because cell membranes, the outer layer of every cell in the body, are composed primarily of fats, and those fats are vulnerable to oxidative damage from free radicals. Free radicals are unstable molecules produced naturally by metabolism, and in larger quantities by environmental stressors like UV radiation, pollution, and cigarette smoke. When free radicals damage cell membrane fats, a process called lipid peroxidation, the cells function less well and age faster. Vitamin E sits inside cell membranes and intercepts free radicals before they can cause this damage. It is one of the primary antioxidant defenses for fat-containing structures in the body, which includes cell membranes everywhere, the lining of blood vessels, and the skin. This is why vitamin E deficiency, even in moderate forms, shows up across multiple systems simultaneously. The same antioxidant protection is needed in multiple places. A 1-ounce serving of sunflower seeds contains approximately 7.5 milligrams of vitamin E, which is roughly 50% of the recommended daily intake for adults. Sunflower seeds are among the richest whole food sources of vitamin E available. For context, getting the same amount of vitamin E from almonds, another well-known source, requires roughly the same serving size. But sunflower seeds are considerably less expensive and more accessible in most markets. The skin health connection to vitamin E is one of the most extensively studied applications of this nutrient, and the research covers both topical and dietary consumption. From the inside, adequate dietary vitamin E is associated with better skin barrier function, the skin's ability to retain moisture and protect against environmental damage. The skin barrier is largely composed of lipids, and vitamin E's role as a lipid-soluble antioxidant means it is directly active in the structures that the skin barrier depends on. Research has found associations between vitamin E intake and reduced UV-induced skin damage, the oxidative damage that sunlight causes to skin cells, and with slower skin aging in terms of the structural proteins that keep skin firm and elastic. From the outside, vitamin E is one of the most common active ingredients in skincare products for this reason. But getting it through diet means it is available throughout the body, not just on the surface, and that systemic availability matters for overall skin cell health in ways that topical application cannot fully replicate. Sunflower seeds also contain selenium, a trace mineral that works synergistically with vitamin E as an antioxidant. Selenium is a component of glutathione peroxidase, one of the body's most powerful endogenous antioxidant enzymes. Vitamin E and selenium together provide broader antioxidant coverage than either alone, and this combination is specifically associated with protection against oxidative stress in skin tissue. Finding both in the same food source is genuinely useful. Heart health is where sunflower seeds make their second significant contribution, and it operates through several mechanisms simultaneously. The fat profile of sunflower seeds is predominantly linoleic acid, an omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acid. Replacing saturated fats in the diet with polyunsaturated fats like linoleic acid is one of the most consistently supported dietary strategies for reducing LDL cholesterol, the type associated with cardiovascular disease risk. Sunflower seeds are among the highest whole food sources of linoleic acid available. Beyond the fat profile, sunflower seeds contain plant sterols, compounds structurally similar to cholesterol that compete with cholesterol for absorption in the digestive tract. Regular consumption of plant sterols is associated with reductions in LDL cholesterol of between 5 and 15% in research studies, and sunflower seeds are a meaningful dietary source of them. The vitamin E content contributes to heart health as well, specifically by protecting LDL particles from oxidative damage. Oxidized LDL is significantly more damaging to blood vessel walls than non-oxidized LDL, and vitamin E's presence in LDL particles reduces the rate at which they undergo oxidation. This is one of the mechanisms through which adequate vitamin E is associated with reduced cardiovascular risk in observational research. Sunflower seeds also provide magnesium, though in smaller amounts than pumpkin seeds, folate, and B vitamins that support homocysteine metabolism. Elevated homocysteine is an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and B vitamins help keep homocysteine levels in a healthy range. Multiple nutrients in the same small food working across multiple mechanisms. This is what makes whole food sources nutritionally valuable in ways that are difficult to replicate with isolated supplements. Now, chia seeds. And the one that might genuinely surprise you because the nutritional density of chia seeds relative to their size and caloric content is among the more remarkable things in plant-based nutrition. Start with fiber, because chia seeds contain more fiber per gram than almost any other food commonly available. A single ounce of chia seeds, 28 grams, provides approximately 10 to 11 grams of dietary fiber. The recommended daily intake of fiber for an adult is 25 to 38 grams, and the average American adult consumes somewhere around 15 grams per day. Most people are running at roughly half the fiber intake their digestive system needs to function optimally. 10 to 11 grams from a single ounce of seeds represents a significant contribution toward closing that gap. The type of fiber in chia seeds matters as much as the quantity. Chia seeds are particularly rich in soluble fiber, the type that absorbs water and forms a gel-like substance in the digestive tract. This gel is what produces the characteristic texture when chia seeds are added to liquid, and it is also what makes chia seeds so useful for digestive health. Soluble fiber feeds the beneficial bacteria in the gut microbiome, the community of microorganisms that live in the large intestine, and that research is increasingly connecting to everything from immune function to mood regulation to metabolic health. When gut bacteria ferment soluble fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which serve as fuel for the cells lining the colon and have anti-inflammatory effects throughout the body. Getting adequate soluble fiber is one of the most fundamental things you can do for gut microbiome health, and chia seeds are one of the most efficient ways to do it. The omega-3 fatty acid content of chia seeds is the other headline nutritional feature, and it comes with some important context that is worth understanding properly. Chia seeds are among the richest plant sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. A 1-ounce serving provides approximately 5 grams of ALA, more than most people get in a day from any source. ALA is an essential fatty acid, meaning the body cannot synthesize it and must obtain it from diet. The important context is that ALA is not the same as the omega-3 fatty acids EPA and DHA, the ones found in fatty fish and fish oil that have the most direct research support for cardiovascular and brain health. The body can convert ALA to EPA and DHA, but the conversion rate is relatively low, typically somewhere between 5 and 15%, varying by individual. So chia seeds are not a substitute for fish-derived omega-3s in terms of EPA and DHA delivery, but they are a meaningful source of ALA, which has its own health associations and which serves as the foundational omega-3 from which the body makes whatever EPA and DHA it can. For people who do not eat fish, whether by preference or for other reasons, chia seeds are one of the most practical plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids available. And even for people who do consume fish, adding chia seeds increases overall omega-3 intake and improves the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids in the diet, which is associated with reduced systemic inflammation. Chia seeds do not give you a sudden burst of energy. They do not work like caffeine. What they do is contribute to the kind of stable, sustained energy availability that comes from a combination of slow-digesting carbohydrates, fiber, protein, and healthy fat all present in the same food. The gel that chia seeds form in the digestive tract slows the rate at which carbohydrates are digested, and glucose is released into the bloodstream. This produces a flatter, more extended blood glucose curve compared to high glycemic foods, which means steadier energy availability over a longer period and less of the sharp rise and fall pattern that contributes to energy crashes and cravings. Chia seeds also provide protein, around 4 to 5 grams per ounce, which contributes to satiety and further moderates the glycemic impact of a meal. Combined with the fat content from ALA, chia seeds are a food that slows down digestion in ways that work in favor of sustained energy and appetite regulation, rather than quick glucose delivery. Historical accounts of chia seeds being used by Aztec warriors and messengers for sustained energy during long physical efforts are often cited in nutritional marketing. What the research supports, more specifically, is that the macronutrient profile of chia seeds, fiber, protein, fat, and slow-release carbohydrates together, is genuinely conducive to sustained energy in the sense of blood glucose stability. 3 seeds, each addressing a different set of needs. Magnesium from pumpkin seeds working across sleep, muscle function, and stress regulation. 1 mineral, multiple systems, consistent and meaningful impact for the majority of people who are not getting enough of it. Vitamin E from sunflower seeds protecting cell membranes throughout the body, with particular relevance for skin health and cardiovascular function. A fat-soluble antioxidant doing its job in fat-containing structures that need it. And chia seeds providing the fiber that most people's digestive systems are consistently short on, along with plant-based omega-3s and a macronutrient profile that supports stable energy rather than interfering with it. None of these are cures. None of them are going to reverse serious health conditions on their own. What they are is a remarkably efficient delivery of specific nutrients that the body genuinely needs, and that a large portion of people are consistently not getting in sufficient quantities from the rest of their diet. That is the seed story. And next time you see a small bag of pumpkin seeds at the checkout or a container of chia seeds on the shelf, you will know what is actually inside them. Like and subscribe to Freud Mind for more.